Here's what's coming up on Network Africa. Rwandan court denies bail to unremorseful serial killer who confessed to committing several murders. France ambassador flies out of Niger Republic after diplomatic row. And United States pauses aid to Gabon following last month's coup d'etat. Glad to have you join us today on the program. I'm Joke Rogers in Lagos. A horrific scene in Rwanda that saw a serial killer torture, rape and bury at least 12 bodies in his kitchen has drawn a lot of attention in the country. What's even more alarming is the 34-year-old man, identified as Dennis Kazungu, confessing to committing 14 murders without showing any form of remorse or forgiveness for his crimes. The suspect, who faces multiple charges including murder, rape, forgery and desecration of human corpses, has been denied by a Rwandan court. However, the judge says the suspected serial killer would remain in custody for 30 days. Let's bring in senior reporter from the New Times, Rwanda, Hudson Kotesa, who joins us virtually from Rwandan capital, Kigali. Good to see you today.
Yes, good evening. Thanks a lot for having me.
Right, such gruesome discoveries we see there in Rwanda. How long has the suspect been up to these horrendous acts?
Well, pardon me?
I was asking how long the suspect has been up to these, horrendous crimes.
Well, it's not clear how long he has been doing this, but at least for the last 2 to 1 year, because one of the victims that were identified was murdered in March. Yeah, it was March 2022. Yeah, so it's maybe between 2 and 1.5 years there in between that.
And it's so horrific to see pictures from the scene of the crime. We understand prosecutors say that he tortures, rapes, threatens, and then murders his victims. On top of that, buries them. What are the authorities saying as regards his mental state? Is he normal?
Nothing much has been said about his mental health state currently. I would imagine that the authorities have not found anything that suggests that he has any mental health issue. So they have not really gone much into trying to establish if he has a mental health problem. All that they say is that whatever he did it because he wanted, to rob people, and it's something that he has done for a long time. The fact that nothing much has been spoken about his mental health state suggests that, there are no issues, no red flags that, suggest that whatever he did it because he had mental health problems. His neighbors themselves say he did not look to have mental health problems, apart from the issues that, they came to realize later that he was engaged into, but nothing really suggested that he had any mental health problems.
And, we have heard that the suspect has not shown any kind of remorse for, the crimes that he has confessed to. So many wonder what his motive to kill was, what was the driving factor behind this unusual behavior.
Well, when he was arraigned to court, I think it was last week, the judge asked him why he has been doing these things, and he said he did it as a revenge because the woman that he killed infected him with HIV, and they did it intentionally. But Rwanda Investigation Bureau has since come out to challenge this, because they said they tested him during the investigations and they found him to be negative. So currently, the authorities think that all he did was because he wanted to rob people and murder them for some reason that they have not yet really established.
And now that the court has denied him bail and he's to be remanded, for 30 days, what's the next course of action from the government? What more are you hearing?
Yeah, so according to the court system here, a suspect can be detained for 30 days as the investigations continue. So the next step is really to deepen the investigations to find out whether he had, for example, people with whom he conspired to do these kinds of crimes. But they are also going to make sure that they make his file more convincing so that he gets the highest penalty possible. So after these 30 days, he's going to come back to court and be tried. It's called the trial in substance. They try him, and I think it's going to be a very short kind of trial because he already pleaded guilty. So we expect it not to be very long until he gets, the penalty that is due according to what the judges will decide.
And Hudson, what's the mood like in his community regarding this tragic incident? What are his neighbors saying about him?
Sure. I went there, I think 2 days after this, some discoveries were brought to light by the investigators. And there was, of course, what you expect. There was the atmosphere of fear, but also disappointment because the local people think that they were not, the situation was not handled well by the authorities, the grassroots authorities, which always turned them down when they said, you should check on him, he's a suspicious fellow. He's always violent, he's fighting with women who come to his house. All that the authorities used to tell them was, he's fighting with prostitutes. Prostitutes are known to be violent. So it's a feeling of both fear but also disappointment in the fact that, the issue wasn't handled very, very much well as expected.
Right, Hudson, thank you for the update on that story.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Elsewhere now, in a bid to help curb gang violence in Haiti, Kenya has announced it's ready to lead a multinational force by deploying hundreds of troops to offer a solution to the unrest. This move was echoed by Kenyan Foreign Minister Alfred Mutua and welcomed by the US, Canada and the United Nations. However, some rights groups have voiced concerns over the deployment, citing accusations of human rights violations by the Kenyan police force.
Unfortunately, Haiti's glorious march to freedom and independence has suffered tremendous setbacks, with the ongoing political crisis and natural disasters converging to worsen an already dire situation. We decided we are going to go and help Haiti to lead a multinational police mission with other countries. We were in New York and other countries are coming on board. We've got other African nations that are coming on board. We've got other nations from all the world. They're saying, if Kenya is leading it, we think there's going to be success. So they're coming on board. We are going to have a UN resolution, which will give the mandate for Kenya and other governments to be able to send their police forces to go and police and help stabilize Haiti. We'll also be training the Haiti police so that they can have their numbers, so that we go, we finish our mission, we come back, we leave them with a stable country.
To diplomatic issues now, France's ambassador in Niger Republic, Sylvain Ete, has left the country after the ruling junta ordered his expulsion. This is coming after weeks of protests and sit-in demonstrations by Niger residents at the French airbase in the capital, Niamey, calling for the withdrawal of French troops and the ambassador. French President Emmanuel Macron said over the weekend the ambassador would leave within days and its troops will withdraw by the end of the year. France and Niger were close allies until military leaders ousted democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum in July's coup d'etat. We're now in Gabon, where the United States has announced plans to halt its aid to the country following last month's military takeover. In a statement, the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was quoted as saying, "We are pausing certain foreign assistance programs that benefit the government of Gabon while we evaluate the unconstitutional intervention by members of the country's military. The decision to suspend aid to Gabon will remain while we review the facts on the ground. The statement adds that the decision was in line with actions taken by the Central African Bloc, the African Union, and other world leaders following the coup. However, it noted that operational activities are continuing in Gabon, including diplomatic and consular operations to support U.S. citizens living there. Elsewhere now, many Sudanese who fled the war-torn country are struggling to survive and start a new life as the conflict between the army and rapid support forces has taken a hard toll on the stagnant economy. Most of those who fled Khartoum in mid-April have not returned. They face malnutrition, floods and risk of disease as they depend for survival on handouts and meager aid relief. According to the United Nations, more than 5.25 million of Sudan's 49 million people have been uprooted since the fighting erupted. Over 1 million of those have crossed into neighboring countries, but more than 4.1 million have stayed in Sudan, where they have come under increasing financial pressure. The prolonged war has blocked trade and transportation, hampering farming, halting many salary payments, and causing vast damage to infrastructure. Meanwhile, two Sudanese artists who go by the nicknames General KD and Ganja Farmer left behind years of conflict in Sudan's South Kordofan and went to the capital in the hopes of spreading their music after the fall of the country's strongman Omar al-Bashir in 2019. 4 years later, the founders of Nuba Mountain Sound Band experienced yet another tale of war and displacement as they fled war-torn Khartoum in May to the Red Sea port of Sudan, to the Red City of Port Sudan in the east. Still, they sing to send a message of hope to Sudan.
In Port Sudan, overflowing with thousands of Sudanese who have fled the war, many find the time to engage in enjoyable pastimes such as General KD and Ganja Farmer's music. They listen, some moving to the beat as the pair sing their own tracks and rap. Nuba Mountain Sound Band was founded in 2014 with the aim of reviving South Sudan's traditional music. The two musicians who found jobs as construction workers to earn a living say they find hope in the music that they produce. They also participate in music workshops where they teach their fellow Sudanese citizens traditional music and dance. For 29-year-old General KD, music is a vehicle to show Sudan's diverse culture.
We want to show the world that this is Sudan. Sudan is not just war, but without peace, these things won't happen. We need peace so that we can show the world who we truly are.
In spite of the war, his 37-year-old counterpart still sees a window of opportunity. According to UN figures, the war that erupted on the 15th of April between the Sudanese Armed Forces and the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces has uprooted more than 5.25 million of Sudan's 49 million people, over 1 million of whom have crossed into neighboring countries.
And when we return, it's celebration mode for China as it counts down to its 74th National Day on October the 1st. We'll bring you the details in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to neighboring South Sudan, where over 300 civilians have been killed due to violence attributed to local militias in the country. United Nations spokesperson Stefan Dujarric is calling on the government to pay attention to the protection of the communities as well as prioritize justice.
Moving to South Sudan, our peacekeeping colleagues are reporting that civilians continue to endure ongoing violence, with 395 civilians killed between April and June this year alone. According to a human rights brief released today by the peacekeeping mission in Sudan, 222 incidents of violence against civilians were documented, including 128 children, 166 abductees, and 29 victims of conflict-related sexual violence. Most of the violent incidents were attributed to community-based militias, with Warrap state being the most impacted state in South Sudan. With elections less than 15 months away, the UN mission urges the government and all stakeholders to prioritize justice, community protection, and the expansion of civic and political space.
The African National Congress, provincial legislature, and Member of Parliament Tony Duba says it's time to change the stereotype on Nigerian nationals in South Africa. According to him, some Nigerians are contributing positively to the South African economy. Mr. Duba's remarks came during an event in Port Elizabeth, where the Nigerian Doctors Forum joined hands with the Eastern Cape Health Department. They organized a medical outreach and free consultation event under the theme Tumamina. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Semosa, reports.
The Nigerian Doctors Forum in South Africa embarked on a mission to give back to the community. They have been providing a medical outreach program offering free consultation and medical services to the residents of Port Elizabeth.
The whole essence of us assembling here today is that annually the Nigerian Doctors Forum in South Africa usually have what we call annual general meeting, and it is usually associated with other activities. It's usually where we do something humanitarian, reaching out to the needy, in association with medical outreach, supporting the facilities where there is poor support, so to say.
I'm very excited. There's no disease. They said, Mama, you are okay.
The South African Health Department in the province says it wants to create lasting partnership with the forum.
What we are excited about in this one of the Nigerian doctors is the structured manner in which the whole program is run. It's like a well-oiled machinery. It's something that our doctors, we wanted to benchmark on to see how we can make sure that we coordinate in a structured manner our efforts in our small corners, and also make sure that it becomes more structured so that it can be sustainable.
In my view, this is a very positive direction that the doctors have decided to take. With what is happening today, we can see that people, in as much as they are hit so hard by austerity and the budget cuts, especially if you're going to talk to Department of Health, public health, not private, but the public health itself. This now unity that is being formed here is showing that in as much as we are hit by the austerity, but people are willing to go an extra mile.
The Nigerian Doctors Forum also gave groceries to a charity home. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the Nigerian Doctors Forum hosted a gala dinner. During the gala dinner, important issues were discussed, including the long-standing issue of stereotype on Nigerian nationals in South Africa.
Because the public has been fed bad things about Nigerians. We have been fed one-sided story and a bad story. That part, it only comes from other communities. And it can't be right. It is a myth that all of us collectively here, using this gathering, using this forum, to drive this wrong narrative about Nigeria's issue.
The government and citizens of South Africa received us with open hands and open hearts, and gave us the needed platform to unleash potentials for mutual benefit. May God bless the good people of South Africa.
Well, both the Nigerian Doctors Forum in South Africa and the Department of Health in Gqeberha agrees that collaboration is vitally important in order to transform the health sector in the country. From Gqeberha, South Africa, Innocent Semosa. Channels Television News.
And China is still in celebration mode as it counts down to its 74th National Day on October 1st, which incidentally is also Nigeria's National Day. Speaking at a reception marking the event, the Consul General Yan Yuquin commended the good and cordial relations the country enjoys with Nigeria, which also celebrates our independence anniversary on that day. She also highlighted President Xi Jinping's plans for the continent. Well, the Abia State Governor, who is a special guest at this year's occasion, said Abia is following China's footsteps and proposes to build an industrial park.
Like many nations around the world, Independence Days are celebrated with features of culture and national pride. China's 74th in Lagos was no different. From use of the Chinese national language to the famous Chinese lion dance, all was on display to thrill guests into appreciating the Chinese and all they stand for. Consul General Yan Yuqin welcomed everyone and extolled relations between China and Nigeria.
Nigeria is known as an ancient country with a history of thousands of years, which is similar to China. And its famous nok, ifi, and Benin cultures have earned it the reputation as the cradle of African culture. The flourishing cultural industries known as Nollywood have provided an important window for the world to get close to understand Nigeria. The new president of Nigeria, Mr. Bola Tinubu, has put forward the Renewed Hope Plan, which sheds light on all aspects of how to build a better Nigeria. The Nigerian people are hardworking, intelligent, and optimistic.
Abia State Governor Alex Oti, who was specially invited for the program, announced future partnerships with China in the state, including the construction of an industrial park.
In Abia, we have followed your footsteps, transforming everything that is possible to transform. In a few days, precisely on the 30th, Saturday, we are going to do groundbreaking for the first innovation and industrial park in Abia State. It is going to be sited in Owaza, where you have large deposits of oil and gas. One of the advantages of the industrial park is that there is going to be 24-hour supply of power. There's going to be a modular refinery and a lot of manufacturing and industrial activities will happen there.
Representing the Lagos State Governor is the Secretary to the Governor, Mrs. Bimbola Salu Hundeyin, who expresses his goodwill and wishes for China at this time.
We commend the people of China for their incredible spirit that has continued to drive growth and development. Your outstanding and remarkable accomplishment in critical areas such as infrastructure, technological innovations, and aerospace technology, ecological development, etc., is most inspiring.
The festivities will continue over the weekend for many Chinese nationals in Nigeria, with parties, mooncakes, and more. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
That's Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers. Bye for now.